I'll call the first ever Pine Island City Council virtual meeting to order, regular City Council meeting to order. The first order of business on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance, and Courtney's going to flash a picture of a flag, and then we'll all walk through it.
See if I can find it here.
Got the flag, Court?
Somewhere.
Here we go. I pledge allegiance to the
To
flag
the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for
for which it stands,
one nation,
one nation,
under
under
God,
God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we get into the body of the agenda, I've got a short little dissertation I want to read to you here concerning this meeting. And I'll first of all thank you for participating in our April City Council meeting, which is Pine Island's first virtual council meeting. Before we begin, I'd like to remind participants of a few guidelines. Number one, this is our regular monthly City Council meeting where City Council conducts business. For those of you from the public who are participating in the meeting, please remember there will be time for your participation. Otherwise, like in-person council meetings, it is expected you will remain quiet until it's your turn to present. Number two, please do not talk over each other. We are recording the meeting and it is difficult to make a clean record when multiple people are talking. Number three, all votes we take tonight will be a roll call vote. And number four, recognize yourself prior to speaking. That's primarily for our guests. Please be mindful, this is our first virtual meeting. If there are a few glitches, we'll work them out. The meeting is even recorded and will be posted sometime after the meeting in addition to the meeting being live streamed. Because of the nature of the meeting, we are not including our public input portion of our agenda. If you would like to bring an issue to City Council's attention, please contact City Hall and they'll be able to assist you in this process. Thank you for understanding the new process. It's a new process for all of us and we're working to conduct our business in a safe and transparent manner. There we go. So we'll move into the consent agenda, which this month consists of A, approval of the minutes from the March 17th regular council meeting. B, approval of minutes from the April 14th local board of equalization meeting. Item C, approve the city administrator's 6-month review. And item D, accept Mayor Steele's statement and determination regarding conducting meetings via telephone or other electronic means.
I'll move to accept the consent agenda.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion?
I want to say thank you to City Administrator Howard for the work she's done since she's come on board. I say it's an exceptional job.
Absolutely.
Yep, that's what we felt also. It's when she took the job, I don't think she envisioned what was going to hit her in her first 4 months, but yeah, we were real happy. So, okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Actually, we have to do a roll call, don't we? So Jason.
Yes.
Kelly.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Mike.
Aye.
David.
Aye.
And I'll say aye also. So we've got, that's a little difficult. All right, so we'll move to administration and legal. Item A would be a resolution 20-16 declaring a local emergency. And you've read it in your packet. We're actually one of the last in the area. The national government or the federal government did it. The state government did it. Quite a few counties and cities in our area have done it. We're now going to partake in that also.
Mr. Mayor, will this help us get some money back then?
Well, that's not totally why we're doing it, but yes, it could qualify us for some funding if it does come down to cities in our situation. I don't know. It's so up in the air, but being a disaster area will maybe put us in line to receive some funds if in fact we can justify them. So, yeah.
Say, Mayor, may I speak?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, so this is Bob, City Attorney Bob. So among the, again, large number of cities we work with, I've been saying to Elizabeth and I've been saying to you that I'm not aware of a specific reason why cities need to do this, given the governor's order and given the president's order about the emergency. But Mayor, as you've indicated here just a minute ago, this is clearly a new thing, right? This has never really happened ever in our country's history, or at least in our country's modern history. And the perception has grown among the cities we represent, and frankly, among all cities across the state, that there may be things coming, like FEMA assistance or other things that may turn on or may look to whether a city declared its own emergency. And so while I can't identify a particular reason, a particular legal authority that you get by declaring this, it is possible that there is something there, right? I mean, again, unprecedented times. And so there is a possibility that something would come from this. And so I guess I would encourage you, like most of the other cities we represent, to move forward with what is on the table now and what's been moved and seconded.
Thank you, Bob. I think the action in itself maybe is more of a precautionary situation. We don't know where this is going. We don't know where, I mean, Pine Island could become a hotbed. I mean, we just don't know at this point. It's so open-ended that I think just being in this position is probably a better deal than not being in this position. So I think it's a good move.
Mr. Mayor, oh, go ahead.
I was going to ask, going through this paperwork and looking at what we have describing for our local emergency, is this essentially, I mean, the only thing that seems to be changing locally with us doing this is allowing local government to conduct business via virtual, on the computer. Is that essentially what's taking place here for the public to see what we're doing, or what is it going to do for us? I mean, what's changing by declaring this?
Well, we are, and Elizabeth, you can jump in here too. We are, we're experiencing some loss in revenue. We're experiencing some, definable damages based on this coronavirus. Whether it be wages, and we've got a lot of things going on right now. And if we'd like to, if sometime it works out, be able to put ourselves in a position where we could be recompensed. And
Okay.
I don't know if that'll ever happen, but at least we've got our hat in the ring. So
It's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
right. That's kind of, so to answer your question, David, I'm not sure, I don't gonna see a great big, it's not gonna be a night and day difference, but it might be, we don't know where this is going, so it could be. Okay, do we have a motion in a second?
I'll motion approval resolution 2016.
I'll second.
And who seconded?
I did, Mike.
Mike, okay. So we'll do a roll call vote again. Courtney, you ready? Jason?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
David?
Aye.
And I'll say aye also. So the resolution passes. Item B on the administration legal would be resolution 20-14, declaring support of the Goodhue Pioneer Trail and the provision of capital funding for Minnesota State Trails. And according to your packet, they're looking at a connection between Zumbrota and I think what's the little town between Red Wing and Zumbrota?
Good, Hugh.
Hay Creek.
Hay Creek.
I do believe we have Roxanne Barsh here to discuss this.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
She's on the meeting.
Yes,
Well, Roxanne, take it away.
okay. A few weeks ago when I asked, well, probably 6 weeks ago when I put this up for a resolution, things have changed so dramatically, but for the last, I think this is the third bonding request we've had, like every 2 years. This will be the third one. We've asked for 1.2 million. And it will actually, how it's read in our bill is it will be for continued funding between Zumbrota and Goodhue. And we do have some advancements in that area. So I just sent a note earlier today to Parks and Trails to ask what the status of the bonding bill is. And, nobody knows. I mean, the bonding bill is usually the last thing that's done. The best hope scenario is that, yes, we do get some funding, but all this is a resolution from, I've gotten one from Goodhue, Red Wing, Zumbrota. It's just, it strengthens our proposal to this legislature if they do in fact give any bonding money, that it would go for a trail. So that's what I'm asking. It's pretty, nothing costing to the city, just support for the trail. And I appreciate the work that Kelly and Wayne have done in the last year to really, we're looking very strongly at how to make a connection between Zumbrota and Pine Island. It's going to take a while, but we've got some momentum there, and I really appreciate that.
Well, thank you, Roxanne. Action item or further discussion.
I'll move resolution 20-14 declaring support for the Goodhue Pioneer Trail.
Got a motion from Mike. Do we have a second?
I'll second. This is Kelly.
Kelly? Okay. Discussion, further discussion.
I would like to thank Roxanne for speaking to the project. Since one of my council assignments is to report to the Pine Island Park Board, Wayne and I were looking for opportunities to expand that and get the greater southeastern Minnesota community involved. As you know, the Douglas Trail alone has an incredible amount of foot traffic. And if we can keep inching that trail north, inching it forwards, we eventually could connect the whole thing up to Red Wing. So you could go from Rochester to Red Wing if you want. We're just, like Roxanne said, piece by piece, getting this trail project complete. So I think this is a great, tourism and recreational opportunity for southeastern Minnesota.
I agree.
Can I make sure though that I heard her correct? We're not committing anything financially to this, correct?
No, it's just showing that if we get state bonding dollars, that it's just a way for when I take it up to the legislature. We actually have a bill that's supported by our Senator Goggins and Barb Haley in Red Wing. So we have the bill, so it's bonding money. It would just be to reinforce and say, yes, this is a bill that's supported by all these local communities. There's no cost to Pine Island.
Thank you, Roxanne.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. We'll do a roll call vote. Jason?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye also. So resolution 20-14 passes. Go to item C on the administration legal. There is a resolution 20-15 declaring support of the Knollwood Apartments project proposal. Do we have, looks like Leah's here. Would you like to discuss this a little bit, Leah?
Yeah, that would be great. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having me here tonight. So just very briefly, I'll tell you a little bit about Three Rivers and then what we plan to do with the Knollwood Apartments, and then ask for your support as we put in an application to do some rehab on that building. So Three Rivers, we're a nonprofit housing developer. Some of you may know us for a lot of other activities we do with transit and some of our other services that we provide in the community. But one of the big things that we do in the region is create affordable housing opportunities. We do that through building new construction, multifamily properties, as well as acquiring and rehabilitating existing affordable housing structures. So what we're proposing to do is to acquire the Knollwood Apartments. It's 24 units. Currently, it's funded by the USDA. It does provide safe, decent, affordable housing for many folks in Pine Island. And our plan is to acquire this and rehabilitate it so that it continues to be affordable housing for years to come. I'm kind of looking over at my screen here, but some of the things that we plan to do with the rehabilitation are things like including kitchen upgrades, bathroom upgrades, upgrading the ADA units. We're also going to include or create an additional ADA compliant unit, improve common areas, add security to doors, and total investment in this property we're saying right now will be about $1.3 million in rehabilitation. So how we plan to do this is to enter into the Minnesota Housing Finance Agency June multifamily competition. Or now it's July, they pushed it back 1 month. And so as part of our application to secure funding to acquire and rehabilitate this property, we're asking for a letter of support from the city. We don't need an investment from you, but just simply your acknowledgement that this is valuable, affordable housing in your community, and you would like to see it rehabilitated.
Thank you, Leah. Question for Leah.
Is this going to change any of the living arrangements for the current residents at Knollwood?
No, that's a great question. And why we're rehabilitating is to make sure that it remains affordable housing for the folks that live there and for folks in the future. But you're right, it will not change.
All right, thank you.
You know, it's a big step for our community. I think affordable housing is a real hot topic throughout the country, and this just expands our capabilities. I think it's a great project for us. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a proposed resolution 2015 for approval.
Okay, we've got a motion to approve resolution 20-15. Do we have a second?
Second, Jason.
Second, Jason. Okay. Discussion, further discussion, questions?
Oh, very good. Thank you, Leah.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I may, this is Bob.
We'll do a roll call vote. Jason?
Bob's trying to get your attention.
Oh, Bob, sorry.
Yeah, Mayor, may I speak?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so many of our communities have seen these kind of applications come forward, and they are very frequently coupled with requests for TIF financing or other local financing. And Leah is saying that's not being requested here, which I think is probably generally speaking a positive, you would think. And so that's a good thing. Sometimes though, these kind of redevelopment projects involve site plan redevelopment or zoning issues or building code issues. I guess I just want to say, I understand, Leah, you're not asking for pre-approval of any of those kind of changes to the facility.
Correct.
You're asking for support for your request for MHFA funding for your project. Am I getting that right?
Yes, that's correct. At this point, it is just support for our application. Once funded, we would go through any and all processes that we would need to do through the city in order to rehabilitate it.
Fair enough, Mayor. I just wanted to make a record of that. Thank you.
Good comment, Bob. And Leah and I discussed this with Elizabeth a while ago, and it's kind of like a renovation thing. I don't think they're going to do many structural or add on anything. I think they're just kind of going to go do some paint and carpet and fix them up and make them look better.
Great.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good.
great project.
Thanks.
Okay, do we have a motion and a second? We'll do a roll call vote. Jason?
Yes.
Kelly?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye also. Motion passes, or
Thank you.
resolution passes. So item D is a continued discussion on the food cart / truck ordinance language. And I think Elizabeth has provided an example of a food cart ordinance in the packet. I'm sure you all read it. And then maybe we'll start with that, and then we'll move into the food truck ordinance language after that.
So I can speak to this a little bit. We had brought the food cart discussion to council at last meeting, as you recall, and council had directed me to draft an ordinance based on those discussions. And so we were able to write an ordinance, and Bob was able to review that. And so I do have that included in the council packet. And so I'm not sure if all of you, it was kind of vague at the last meeting on what information you kind of wanted in the ordinance. So I just wanted to make sure everyone reviewed that and agreed with what kind of the terms that were in the ordinance.
Elizabeth, may I ask a question?
Yes.
Going through the language on this ordinance, are we putting in place any limitations on the number of carts that we would allow during the day, or is that going to be open to your discretion?
Well, I think it's open to council's discretion because we have it in there that with each application, they'll have to state the location of where they would like to locate their cart along with the hours. And then that will go, each application will go before council, and council will actually have to approve that application. So each individual application will actually appear before yourselves.
Thank you.
Yeah, the only question I had, Elizabeth, I was looking at the size requirement limitation at 4 by 10. That's 40. That's a 4. You said 40 square feet. We probably plagiarized this program from somebody else. 40 square feet. That's a 4 by 10 self-propelled vehicle, or I guess by human or whatever. But that's a big. They must have some like ice cream bicycles that they include in that, I suppose. I just don't know how do you get 40 square feet in a little cart? But,
So Mr. Mayor, where that comes from is it says that the vending cart and the area occupied by it cannot exceed 40 feet. So that includes the person and any additional, it also states that they can have up to 2 coolers as well. And they cannot take up more than 40 square feet. And that's the cart and any garbage or anything like that. So it's their entire footprint.
Okay, that answers my question.
If it's okay with everyone, I've been taking some notes this afternoon and received a few phone calls this afternoon from concerned citizens. So I have sort of a written statement or feedback that I would like to read aloud. I think we need to take a step back from talking about food carts specifically and look more so at mobile food units, which is a broader term. Is this point in the agenda, Elizabeth, appropriate for that discussion?
I mean, it's really up to how you guys want to handle this. So at first council, it's my understanding that you were entertaining the idea for food carts, and food trucks were not brought up. And so that's when I started the research for putting together the ordinance for the food carts, that's when we received a lot more feedback regarding food trucks. So that is why I placed food trucks on the agenda for discussion tonight. But it's really up to you guys whether you want to combine that into one discussion or if you want to leave them as 2 separate kind of entities and ordinances. So I can see how there's similarities, but I can also see where they're different.
Elizabeth, is the, so we've got the proposed ordinance in front of us for the food carts. It needs to be a resolution before it's an action item that we can approve, or can we approve this language tonight? How does that work?
So what's before you is an ordinance that would be added to the city code. So that's an ordinance that you guys can pass tonight to actually then there's a couple other procedures after you vote on it, but once it's published, things like that, then it could actually be added to the city code. And so it's ready for you as far as the language for the food carts. Switching over to the food trucks, I have not prepared anything before you.
Right.
Because that was not at any previous meetings. I just put it on the agenda because we've received so many public input during the last month.
I see them as 2 separate, 2 issues that should be handled separately. I think they both have unique dynamics. I'd like to make a motion to approve the food cart verbiage as it's been proposed.
I'd second that.
Discussion.
Yes, I would like to bring up again the fact that respectfully, Councilor Hildebrand, I disagree with you, and I think food carts and mobile food units in generally are the same beast. I've written down a few points that I want to bring up right now. If you read through your council packet, you'll see that 3 local restaurants submitted letters not in favor. And this afternoon, David Hewitt wrote an email in favor. David Hewitt has great experience when Rochester was having the same discussion, and now he is a Pine Island business and Pine Island taxpayer. I have 2 points in favor of allowing mobile food units of any shape and size. The first point in favor being about creativity. If we restrict food units, we're in turn restricting local businesses. For example, during this COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of restaurants have started curbside pickup services, which is absolutely great. We should be able to expand on that and allow businesses to have sidewalk sales or booths set up at City Park. There's also the opportunity for businesses to grow, expand, and adopt their business models to do things like vending during the summer at the city park when bike traffic is busy. There's a big difference between public and private land, which I think causes some of the grievances for the local businesses. The city ordinance that we would propose would only apply to public land, so we're not encroaching on private business owners' properties. I'm not sure of what legal restrictions we would have on a mobile food truck ordinance if we could limit the number of units, location, or hours to accommodate our existing businesses in town. But the second point I wanted to bring up in favor was about this perceived competition food trucks would create. I do not believe the Pine Island market alone is big enough to support a lot of food trucks. They're simply not going to come in droves like the fear is. I think we're also underestimating our local citizens and their ability to support local businesses as well. For example, City Hall has recently started a Support Pine Island campaign, which is so important to remind us all to shop local, eat local, and donate local. So my hope is that the discussion we're having at the council meeting tonight makes us all hyper aware of how important it is to support local. But I do believe that the city of Pine Island should support an ordinance in favor of mobile food units, not discriminating between trucks and carts. And we should allow our local restaurants in town already to expand and adapt their business models.
I don't believe though, Counselor, that Hildebrand is discriminating against food trucks because we can create a different ordinance for it. What our purpose for tonight was to look at food carts, not food trucks, and the food trucks were added at the last minute. And we've had complaints in the past about adding things to in the last minute. So in this case, I don't think Counselor Hildebrand is discriminating in that fashion. We're not speaking out against local businesses. We are purely looking at the food cart. That's what we prepared for. And I would never, ever dream that our council is going to sit here trying to put down a local business. What we have is an opportunity to direct staff, if we so choose, to look at creating an ordinance for food trucks. And the letters that we received, I think, are important to look at. And you're the president of the local chamber of commerce, so I think it's important to listen to our local restaurants that are paying taxes in that fashion, and address their concerns. But that's why I don't feel that we are discriminating tonight. We were going to discuss the food carts, and we can discuss food trucks later.
Happy to discuss food trucks separately. I think they should be handled separately. That's why I made the motion that I did.
Can we maybe talk staff to look at what neighboring communities are doing, like-sized communities, what their ordinances are? Maybe table this and have it when we can get together and, advertise it so people can show up and voice their opinions. It's my 2 cents.
Is that something that everybody concurs with as far as letting staff investigate other communities and so on?
I would feel more comfortable, as Councillor Johnson suggested, tabling this to a future meeting when we can meet in person and have the opportunity for in-person public input. I think it is important to hear from both the citizens and the businesses in town on how they think we should handle this. And I don't necessarily think the virtual meeting is the most appropriate time to do that.
Yeah, I 100% agree, Kelly. I just think, right now, the concept lacks specificity. We got to talk about how many and what they're going to pay. And there's a lot of things on the food truck end of it that we're just kind of shooting from the hip right now. So Jason's suggestion to table it and bring it back at another date after we do some investigation, probably very, very good.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask though, are we not able to, we have a motion and a second for the food cart. Are we not able to bring up the food truck question at a later date that we can discuss, or are you asking us to?
No, I would prefer that. Like I said, it doesn't have, there's a lot of things to consider, specifics when you get the food trucks, accessibility and license fees and what are we going to, private versus public and how many, and there's just a lot of things we need to define before we start walking down the road of trying to approve something like that. And no, we can do the food cart tonight, David.
Okay.
But I think Jason's idea to table the food truck conversation to do some investigation is a good one. That's just my opinion.
I appreciate- Okay.
Right now, they can park on private property, correct? I mean, I know there was one at Island Market.
Correct.
There's one advertised coming up for North Main.
Bob, we've got the ability to charge license fees for food trucks, whether they're public or private, right?
Okay, well,
Yeah,
just,
I mean, Mayor and Council, to the extent the city wants to engage in regulating food trucks, you have that power. You generally have the power to regulate public health and safety, and that's one of those things, food trucks. And so, yeah, you can recover a fee for doing that. Sure.
I was hoping we could get through the food cart thing and then discuss food trucks, but I'll just say it. I'm in favor of leaving nothing with food trucks and letting them work out in private space. And we can talk about it more, but there are a lot of dynamics to the food truck thing. We're going to get one food cart application this summer, and I would like to keep this moving so that person can be successful if he gets the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, we can act on.
I personally do not feel comfortable voting on specific language tonight, but I think we need to enact something temporarily in place during this pandemic to allow businesses to expand and provide services, at least while their storefronts are closed. I don't know how specifically that would work, but in the next 2 to 3 months or however long this lasts, I think we need some sort of Band-Aid in place to allow businesses to adapt and expand and accommodate these changing times.
All of our restaurants, Kelly, are now providing food takeout. They weren't, and when they weren't, I was concerned that we needed to do something different. They all now are. I think if they needed something more in the interim, more space or more something, they could come see us. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, they're all open right now, delivering what they can deliver, which is curbside to go, takeout orders. So I guess I don't know what you'd have to tell us more about what you're proposing we do for them.
Right. My concern is that some businesses obviously have limited menu options when you can't access their sit-in dining area, and other restaurants are located in inconvenient parts of town that aren't necessarily the most accessible. So if we allow businesses, for example, to have sidewalk sales or set up at City Park, just to get us through the next few months until we can look at the food ordinance issue more specifically.
That's why we, Councilor Weibel, I think that's why we are saying we can table the truck discussion next month and we can get that panned out. Like Hildebrand said, we're discussing the food cart or the cart discussion tonight. You know, we have a motion and a second on it, and we're not dismissing the idea of the food truck, but that was not the original intent of this ordinance right now. And like I understand we're trying to accommodate the businesses, and that's what we're going to discuss. But I don't want that. I don't want there to be feelings that we're dismissing these other businesses. If Mr. Hewitt, if he wants to set up a booth, he can always come and make that request to City Hall.
So I'm just going to interject for a second because I'm a little confused following the conversation. So I'm sure that if any of the public is following the conversation, they're just as confused as I am. So I just kind of want to regurgitate a little bit of information. So what I'm hearing is that we need to make a decision whether we want to view food carts and food trucks separately or together. And then I think if you want to view them separately, then maybe we should take one issue at a time, because I think we're kind of blurring the lines between them. And
Yes.
and it's hard for me to follow along just what you would like staff to do. And so I'm sure any of the public who are watching now as well on the live stream are probably a bit confused too. So it would be my suggestion that if you guys decided whether you wanted to kind of view them together or separately, and then if you do want to view them separately, I suggest taking one issue at a time.
We have food cart verbiage on the table with a motion and a second. Mayor, can we vote on that?
Yeah, we've got a motion and a second on the language that was presented in the packet. on the food cart. And then we can talk, let's walk through that, get that accomplished, and then we can talk about the food trucks after we get that. We've got a motion in a second. So further discussion on food carts. There being none. Jason? Jason? Yea or nay?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Mike? David?
Aye.
And I'll say aye. So the food cart language passes. Now, there's been a suggestion that we table the food truck provision until we can gain more specificity. I think it's a good idea, and we'll charge Elizabeth, if you would like, with investigating that and seeing if she can come up with a good template for those kind of actions.
I will also ask if, since we are tabling the food truck discussion and looking at this to discuss in a month or two, in the meantime, can we put together a task force of local businesses and citizens and whatnot that can all contribute to helping shape what this mobile food unit ordinance would look like?
A task force, okay? I guess it's up to the council. You know, I think the task force is, they're looking everybody in the eye right now, but I guess I would invite input. And even maybe if, when we can get to the point where we can have an open meeting or a public meeting, maybe we could invite people to that.
I agree that before we vote in any more specific food truck ordinance language, we need to have either a task force or an open house type meeting where we can all sit and discuss this together. So we hear from, again, both the businesses and the citizens.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. It's very impactful. As you guys read the testimonials from the local restaurants, it's going to impact them, and at a time when they're being heavily impacted by something beyond their control. So to jump into the arena where I just think we have to really vet that, and a public hearing might be a very good thing to do. So,
Mr. Mayor, I'll make the motion to table this for a future meeting that's open to the public, and I have city staff look into neighboring cities' ordinances for discussion.
I'll second.
and a motion and a second. Further discussion. There being none. Jason?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye also. Okay, perfect. All right, item E, we're going to request staff or direct staff to revise the current alcoholic beverage ordinance to include the operation of breweries. Apparently, we've got a brewery going up and we don't have our vision to license it. So, Bob, have you weighed in on this, or have you done this in other communities? I suppose you have.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, that's right. It's not a problem or thing caused by Pine Island. Minnesota's liquor and alcohol licensing laws are complicated, more complicated than is necessary. It's kind of a product of a long history of Minnesota being Minnesota. And so cities, this is common where you've got a new opportunity, new business coming to town that's going to be a brewery and serve some food and brew some beer on site. You need to bring your code up to date. And yes, Elizabeth and I have talked or emailed, I guess, probably more accurately, but we've communicated, let's put it that way, about it. And I agree that I think you have an opportunity, and you've said as the council, you want to have that opportunity come forward, and some changes to your code are going to have to be done to do that.
Mr. Mayor, I'm making a motion to direct staff to revise our current alcohol beverage ordinance so it is properly licensing the impending brewery, which is going to open up.
Got a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion. There being none. Jason?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye also. So staff, there you go. You got your marching orders. Item F, We've got Carolyn Twaddle here, and she's going to give us a 2020 Cheese Festival update. Can we turn her on so she can speak? Court?
I'm on.
Oh, okay, great.
Thanks for allowing me to be here. Our Cheese Fest board did meet recently virtually, and just given the current and foreseeable guidelines amidst the pandemic, it's unfortunate, but we are going to have to cancel this year's 2020 Cheese Festival. The Cheese Festival board deliberated on it quite heavily. And really, there were some main factors that led to this decision, because I know there are some who will say, why wouldn't you just postpone it instead? We made the decision now based on guidelines and the fact that food vendors are starting to order their food. And if we push this out any further, we just run the risk of them ordering food and not being able to use it. So we wanted to be cognizant of that. We did discuss potentially postponing to late summer or even fall, but I think it is really difficult to plan for an unknown time when we're going to be able to have large group gatherings like that. I do know that the Zumbrota Covered Bridge Festival and Lake City Water Ski Days have already made the decision to reschedule to late summer and early fall. So with the other county festivals that are going to be going on at that time, we would have a lot to compete with. And financially, it's risky for us, because just as we were getting ready to ramp up and we had revamped our fundraising efforts, that's when this hit, and we could all see what was going to happen to small businesses, and we could not ethically ask our local businesses to support us when we knew that this would really hurt them. We do have a fund balance to cover one festival, but like I said, even if we try and do something, we don't know what the outcome would be in the attendance. So our thought is we would just cancel it for this year and use the time to make 2021 hopefully the best festival ever.
Questions, comments for Carolyn?
Carolyn, thank you. And I know you and I have spoke about this, and I appreciate the Cheese Festival's board's work. I know it's not easy decisions to make. I would just like to be on record to say that if we get to the point locally where we're at stage 3 or whatever, where we can have large group gatherings, maybe it's in conjunction with a rescheduling of the fireman's dance. I would just like to be on record to say I'm willing to help if we can do some kind of celebration. Doesn't have to be Cheese Festival board related at all. You know what I mean? If it's a separate group of volunteers, hopefully by the end of summer, early fall, we can celebrate Pine Island strong.
Yeah, thank you.
I would love that. Like I said, we'll have to see, but I think if we can get to stage 3, I think everybody will be ready for a good celebration and seeing one another.
I agree. And the staging of the event is one aspect. The public's comfort level to get out and congregate is a whole different aspect. So and when that happens, who knows? But thank you, Mike, and thank you, Terry Lynn. And
I also wanted to say thank you to Terralyn and the whole Cheese Fest board, because I know from experience how much work goes into planning this community festival and how many volunteers you need to put it on. If you've been following the Cheese Festival on Facebook, they've completely rebranded, updated their website. So I can see that there was a lot of effort that went into making the 2020 festival as great as it could be. And unfortunately, to protect our community's health, this is what we have to do. But I hope that we can get our boots back to the ground right away after this.
I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to Planning Commission. There was no Planning Commission meeting this month. And then so the item 6 on the agenda would be Public Works and Engineering. And under item A, I think Craig Britton is in-house, and I think he's going to talk about the review of the 2nd Street and Kennelly Court reconstruction bids. And Craig is in the upper left of my screen. So there he is standing there in the microphone. Take it away, Craig.
All right, well, good evening, Mayor and Council. We did have 2 bid openings today. One was on the southwest.
Oh, you're gonna have to speak up, Craig.
move just a little bit closer.
Okay, so we did have 2 bid openings today. We had the Southwest Street project, which included 2nd Street and 2nd Avenue Southwest. And then we had also the Pine Island or the Island Heights water tower rehab project that was bid. So good news to report on both projects. Tonight we're just going to be giving you a summary of the results, and we'll so we won't be taking action tonight. We'll shoot for a May 6th meeting, a special meeting where we would have some bonding information in front of you, so you can make a decision on whether to move forward with the projects or not. So the bids, I'll run through the Southwest Street project bid results first. We had the engineer's estimate at $1,535,000, and Schumacher Excavating was read low at $1,472,000. So good news there. Schumacher Excavating has done multiple projects in town, and we would feel comfortable recommending award of the contract to Schumacher Excavating. The high, so again, we had 7 bids. The high was at a little over $2 million. And the feasibility report had a construction cost estimate of $1.67 million. So we're well under the feasibility report as well. So good news on the numbers there on the street project. So any questions with that?
Did that include Kennelly Court?
It did, yes. Yep.
Question?
Yep. And as for the water tower, we did have 7 bids on that as well. So this would include the recoating of the tank itself. There's asbestos, there's lead paint that needs to be sandblasted and then recoated as well. So we had an engineer's estimate. We had a base bid and then an alternate bid to include a mixer, which circulates the water and prevents freeze up in the tank. The base bid, the engineer's estimate was at $574,000. And then the alternate one was at $20,400. The low bid came in from Preferred Tank and Tower. They're out of Henderson, Kentucky. They were at $371,000 with a alternate one bid of $28,000. So almost $200,000 below the engineer's estimate. The next low was Viking Industrial out of Omaha, and they were at $466,900 for the base bid and $22,500 for alternate one, to bring it to a total of almost $490,000. So we haven't worked with Preferred before. We did reach out to them today and did not hear back, but hopefully we'll be hearing from them in the next couple days, get some references from them, and then we'll be able to bring this back to you again on May 6th.
Hey, Craig,
Yes.
a question on the street project. Back when we were discussing this project, we had talked about how far we were going to go on 2nd Street and whether we were going to go past the Lutheran Church up to 3rd Street. Is that portion of the project included in this bid?
Yep, it is. So 2nd Avenue from 3rd Street to the north is all included.
It is, okay.
As well as Kennelly Court. Yep.
And I know, if I can interject real quickly, I know there's probably a question in everybody's mind right now, whether this is a great time to be taking on these kind of projects with the uncertainty of where the economy is going in the next 6 months to a year or even farther. Elizabeth took the opportunity to call Mike Bubani, who had laid out a projection for the city, and Mike was very comfortable with going ahead with this, just simply because the interest rates are really good. He didn't see that it was going to have a huge impact on our financial position now or even next year. So, Elizabeth, you could maybe just reiterate that. Or
Yeah, definitely. So I reached out to Mike Bubani, who's been our capital financial planner, and just to make sure that the two projects we're looking at, the water tower and the street project, wasn't going to affect the city financially, just in case. Obviously, we're unsure of where the economy's headed. He was comfortable, even if the economy doesn't bounce back as quickly. He was still comfortable taking on the project based on where the funds are coming from. And we have a smaller percentage coming from our water sewer rates right now. So he was comfortable in the future that if we needed to adjust where the payments were coming from, that it wouldn't affect the city and it wouldn't affect the future tax rates.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, the question I have about this project is, after our special meeting on May 6th, obviously now that things have changed and we can't meet in person, what are our public outreach plans to let residents know how the process is going to work? Is that something, that public outreach piece, something that needs to be done in the next 2-month time frame, or how will that work?
Yeah, that's a good question. We've thought about that too, whether to hold a Zoom meeting like this or just follow up with a letter, just to have correspondence, and then set up individual meetings if the residents want to do that. So I think that's probably the route we're leaning towards going, again, with your input. But I think sending out a letter explaining, the process would be best, instead of trying to do a Zoom meeting like this. That might get a little distracting. So I think if residents would like to set up individual meetings with us, we'll be available to do that, to run through the plans with them. Yeah, that's a
good point, Kelly.
Thank you. So if after our May 6th meeting, we look over and approve bids, is the plan still to start construction in early June?
It would actually be towards the end of May, probably, is when they would like to start. In fact, today they asked, when can we get started? So, but the contract start date is anytime after May 18th.
Great. So in regards to the public outreach again, the city will be reaching out with correspondence, but if the public that lives along the project route has concerns or other questions, where should we be directing them?
Yeah, that would come out in a letter, and I guess I would suggest we even do that before the May 6th meeting, so that way we have a little more time, and then we'll have our contact information on that letter, and then they can reach out to us to set up a meeting with us whenever they'd like.
Great, great. I just want to ensure that, living on 2nd Street myself, I want to know specifically, what's going to happen when, so that, people living along the route again can take precautions.
Right.
Thank you.
Yep. You're good.
Yeah, and I think that public input is really important, Craig, on this project in particular. It's a very complex project, as you know, and there's going to be all kinds of questions about trees and elevations and widths and everything that's going to hit. So we really have to let them come and talk, so they have a good understanding of what's happening, or at least somehow get them the opportunity to converse about this, because I've had several calls already for people that want to know how it's going to work and whatever. Okay. Any further question for Craig?
Thanks for your work on this, Craig. It's going to be exciting to get it going.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks.
Thanks, Craig. Is Todd Robertson in the building?
Yes, he is.
Todd? You got everybody's healthy, Todd.
We're healthy.
Yeah, good. Go ahead. Todd, are you there?
Yeah.
Oh, we're looking to request a purchase of a replacement snowplow pickup. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're looking at purchasing a 1-ton dually, and that would replace the 02 Dodge and the 98 Chevy 1-ton. So we'd get rid of the 2 trucks and go just to the 1.
Todd, this is Jason.
Yeah.
What are the conditions of those two? Could you talk about that a little bit?
They're not in very good shape. I just don't want to stick any more money into these two trucks.
Mhm.
I mean, the one's over 20 years old and the other one's 18 years old.
Okay.
Do they have separate, do you utilize them in two different manners? Are you gonna try to combine this truck you're buying to do both the functions of both these trucks, or?
That's the whole idea, is combine the use of the two trucks into the one here.
Okay,
Mayor, can I speak for a minute?
absolutely.
The plow off of one of the trucks has already been repurposed. Genius work by Sam Lenz at the city shop repurposed that plow for the skid loader that we're currently leasing. So they were able to use that plow on that piece of equipment because it was the truck it's on was unusable in the situation it had. So some of the equipment's already begun to be repurposed, but yeah, as Todd said, two very old trucks that are they're just not worth putting money into. So at a point where we need to do something and they have a plan to pay for it. So,
yeah, I think I read in the packet, Todd, where this money is set aside.
Yep, this is already in our equipment fund
Right.
that we have built up.
Any further questions or comments for Todd? Got some good bids, Todd.
Yeah.
So is there, just for the record on these bids, because the paperwork has it listed that there was a number of businesses that didn't provide bids. Is there any concern about needing to wait and withhold this money right now and see if we get any other bids, or is this needing to be done at this time? Is it emergent?
I don't know if it's emergent, but who knows what the prices are going to do 6 months from now. We got good prices right now, so I'd like to go forward with it.
I think there's advantages to building a plow truck in the spring. If we wait till late summer or fall, I think that's when a lot of people decide to build a plow truck, and it could snow and we won't have it.
And this one's on is all ready to go. So.
And I can kind of speak to the fact that they did receive 10 quotes. So, so this truck is based off of 10 quotes that they did gather. So it looks like they didn't receive quotes from 5 or 6 others. So.
And the old ones the plan is to sell them?
Yeah. Yeah, we want to get them off our hands. They'll make a good farm truck or something for somebody, but.
Okay. Any other further questions or comments for Todd?
I'll make a motion to go ahead with the purchase of this truck.
I'll second.
A motion by David and a second by Mike, Stephanie, and we'll do a roll call vote. Jason?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye also.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move to public input. Item A, we've got Joe Loftus requesting to remove some stop signs at the intersections of 7th and 8th Avenue and 9th Street. There's double stop signs there. I think there's stop signs on both ends of 9th Street, and I think there's stop signs at that intersection on 7th and 8th Avenue. Is Joe in the building, or let's see, there's Joe. Hi, Joe. Go ahead.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, I'm here.
Yeah, if you'd like to say something, Joe, go ahead. Or if anybody's got questions for Joe, go ahead and shoot.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council, for letting me speak tonight. I did prepare a statement. The mayor has a copy of it. I'm just asking for the council and city staff just kind of take a look at these stop signs up here. Obviously, the ones on 9th Street are good to go. The issue is the ones on 7th Avenue and 8th Avenue. Currently, there's 2 homes that are being built right in that intersection. So their driveways are dead center in that intersection. I know, Jason, your old house, the driveway was close to that stop sign, so it was kind of a pain for you. But now these new homes are actually in the intersection. So these people aren't going to have, very little opportunity to park vehicles in front of their own homes, much less with the safety concern of backing out of their driveway into an intersection. We all know it's kind of a free for all up here with the amount of traffic. The sheriff's department's done an unbelievable job over the years, but it is what it is. I just think maybe it should be looked at for safety purposes. You know, the kids up here now basically just guess if cars are going to stop, because well over 50% of vehicles don't stop at those ones on 7th and 8th Street, or 7th and 8th Avenues, excuse me. So I don't know what we can do. If it's a process the council can look at or do a traffic study, that's just all I'm asking from the council, to look at it and see what we can do from here.
Mr. Mayor, were these stop signs not requested to be put in at one point, or were they put there when the street was constructed?
Oh, actually, I was just going to say that. And I think Joe's concern is the new construction that's going to occur right in the middle of those intersections. They've got vacant lots that have been vacant for decades, but now they're going to be constructing homes on those lots. So now you're going to have basically a driveway right in the middle of these intersections. Because I think I've been around long enough, Joe, to remember when you were lobbying to put those stop signs in.
Yeah, I did. I worked with the former city administrator that will not be mentioned on that one, but yeah. So at that time, it was a fairly good idea, just because there wasn't that much traffic up here, because the townhomes are still under construction. But now, with what do we have, 120 units up here? It's kind of a different world.
So you're okay with us checking it out and taking recommendations on what might be the best solution?
100%, Mr. Mayor. I just appreciate your guys' time and allowing me to speak on it. Just like I said, my whole concern in 99 is honestly the safety of the kids up here. And obviously with the new neighbors, I do feel bad for them, not having any parking. It's an unfortunate setup, for them. It's a kind of a bad deal.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to say too, driving up there, they will be obstructed with people parking in the street. I could see, like Joel says, backing out being an issue on the 1/8, and Joel, when they build by him too. So
yeah, I mean, we're going to be faced with a little bit of a dilemma, because if people want to park in front of their homes, their lot is going to be right in the intersection.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you've got issues of visibility and all that. So
I just need to ask, so if we go ahead, because we've had obviously, like you just said, Mr. Mayor, that where there weren't stop signs, so we put them in, and now if we are requested to remove them moving forward, is this gonna be a cost issue with the city if we get asked to put them in again, or is this one of those things that we can look at and then essentially just leave it alone? If we
I think the recommendation is to take them out, which I don't think we incur anything but labor. But once again, I think we have to look at it. We have to study it a little bit and see what might be the best solution.
Mr. Mayor and fellow council people, we have a well-documented speed. We have a significant safety issue with people speeding in that neighborhood. At first glance, I'm not in favor of pulling out anything that might control speed. I realize people run the stop signs and disregard them, but we have a real issue in this neighborhood. And so aside from these people maybe not being able to park in front of their house, and I understand that, I think a safety issue has to be looked at on top of that. And what can we do in this neighborhood to make it safer? Because it's been well documented. It's dangerous for years.
Absolutely. Jason and I both lived in that neighborhood. We know all about that neighborhood. So
I appreciate the concerns that Mr. Loftus has brought up, and I think these are very valid concerns that need looking at. But is there a way to survey other residents in that area and see what other people's experiences are with those stop signs on those few roads?
I would think we could do that. Yeah.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, I mean, just to add to that, yeah, anybody, well, I'm just standing outside right now, watch the car run that intersection as is. But anyway, there was actually a post on the Pine Island City community group the other day where a neighbor down the street made this exact statement that I did, because she had to yell at somebody because they blew the stop sign and almost ran over her kids or something. So I think you could come up here any given day and speak to any neighbor that lives on this street, and they will speak to you and tell you exactly what goes on up here and the traffic flow issue. And Mr. Hildebrand, I truly appreciate you mentioning what you did, because that is also a very big concern of mine too, what comes next. And in the statement that I prepared for the mayor, I made that comment. What happens next if we do remove these stop signs? Is the speed going to go back to the way it was 15 years ago or 10 years ago when these things were put in? So thank you again.
I would just also like to say, I guess, since this has a chance to go public, that I followed that thread on the Facebook community page, and people talked about calling the mayor about speeders, which I encourage people to call the mayor night and day, by the way, with all kinds of issues. No,
thank you, Mike.
I encourage people on the thread, if they've got vehicle descriptions and plate numbers, please call the sheriff's office. Call the mayor, that's great. It's a safety issue, so let's get them called in. Councilman Johnson confirmed to me that they would, they can't write tickets based on that, but they'll at least serve some warnings. Maybe that would help some of the repeat offenders. I'm just concerned for safety.
I also don't agree that removing the stop signs will solve the problem. I think if we agree that this is as big of a problem as it sounds like, we need to do some more investigative work and not just remove stop signs.
Well, our fair city has its definite proportion of stop signs compared to a lot of cities. I would make a motion that we go forward and we direct city staff, and we can look at doing an investigation into the stop sign issue and see what we can do to help the neighbors up there. And like Mr. Loftus said, our sheriff's office does a phenomenal job. We have one deputy on any given day working this entire city, so it's absolutely impossible for them to be able to sit up there all day and do an enforcement. That's not. I get very disgruntled when I see people posting and bashing our law enforcement, saying they're not doing their job. That's absolutely false. They can't sit up there all day. So I would make a motion to direct our city staff that we can look at doing a traffic study and see if we can help, and whether or not it would be appropriate to pull the stop signs.
Second.
Further discussion?
To do a traffic, I'm unfamiliar with doing a traffic study. Does that require funding, or what work goes into doing a traffic study?
I think it's a city street, so I don't think we get any kind of cooperation from county or federal. So I think we'd have to do our own traffic study, and they're not cheap. They cost money. I like your concept of kind of interviewing the residents. And I'm a little bit with Mike. I don't think eliminating situation like that is necessarily a good thing. If there is a problem, we could just be adding to the problem. So,
Councilor Freese, does your motion direct city staff to get a hold of the residents in that area, or what are we directing city staff to do?
I would assume that would be included, as you had mentioned, communicating with the area residents up there. We have one individual that included his thoughts with our council packet, where he states he wants one stop sign pulled but not the other. I would assume that would be included in that, and being able to gauge their feelings up there. And yeah, I don't think there is any one answer. Having driven up there to check out this area myself, yeah, you see traffic, people coming down from the townhomes, driving fast, and it's even though it's called a controlled intersection, it's not always controlled. And we've had a record with Mr. Loftus sending messages to the city about vehicles violating the stop sign and going through. But I think it's also in our best interest to help those neighbors if we can, and do our due diligence.
Great, thank you for that.
We've got a motion and a second to have staff look into possible solutions on this issue. Is there any further discussion?
I don't think city staff thinks she needs one more thing to do. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Anyway,
no
time element. All those in favor, let's see. No, we're going Jason.
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
David, Mike,
Aye.
I'll say aye. So motion passes to direct city staff to start down the road of investigating what we're going to do on that intersection. Okay, item B under public input, there's a Greater Zumbro River Watershed Project update. And that's in your packet. Do we need to, is there anybody going to speak on that, or is it just more information? Elizabeth?
So this is purely informational. I believe Stephanie gets this information like quarterly, and so it's just a handout for your review.
All right, thank you. We'll move to legal. Bob?
Yeah, Mayor and Council, I guess I don't recall if I said this last time I was with you at a council meeting, but let me just say it now. Clearly, the way you're conducting this meeting is different. It's probably a little bit awkward in a way. I think you did well here tonight, but it's not the way we usually do business. And let's be honest, it to some extent restricts public input, public access to these meetings, but you are doing everything that any city in Minnesota is doing to allow public access through this meeting. What we've done here tonight, you did it well, and you're doing it just like all the other cities here in the metro and up north, all around the state. Everybody's doing their best to allow the public to see what's going on, to allow the public to have input. I'm quite sensitive as your legal counsel to making sure that that is the case. Technology is great, but it's got limits. And I know that Elizabeth agrees that we're going to do everything we can going forward to allow your residents and folks that have an interest in what you're doing to be able to see and visit with you this way and other ways. And so I just want you and the public to know that that's an important concern. We're not unaware of that concern, and we're trying our best to make that happen as we go forward.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks.
We'll move to claims.
Make a motion to approve claims.
David
Second.
moves to approve claims. Is there a second?
Second.
Mike, second. Discussion? Jason?
Aye.
Yea or nay? Kelly?
Aye.
David? Mike?
Aye.
I'll vote aye. Claims passes. We'll move to departments. Rachel?
Hi. I get to talk now. No, I just wanted to let everyone know that we are still closed. We're not doing any kind of curbside pickup. The only employees that are currently working from the library are myself and Heidi, our full-time assistant director. And we are looking at plans to start a slowly reopening project. So we're hoping that we're going to be able to start curbside services again, probably on the 4th of May, if everything goes well with the state stay-at-home order getting rescinded, or if we can just find ways that we can do that. Because there are libraries in the area that are offering those services now. So we're hoping to join them in the not too distant future.
Perfect.
Thank you, Rachel.
I just want to jump in and give Rachel a huge pat on the back. She kind of went through and she created a whole plan on how to reopen, like she said, but it was very, it had a lot of detail. You could tell it was well thought out, and it definitely had public safety at the heart of it. So I just want to applaud her and give her a pat on the back for putting that together for the library.
I would follow up with that, and I want everyone to understand too that, you know, libraries are extremely important to your local communities when it comes to public education and being a resource. And what's fun is even during this time that the libraries had to be closed, Rachel and her staff went above and beyond and made sure that books were still available to people that wanted them and resources were there. And what's really fun too is that there's still an interaction with the community through some of our social media, and being able to keep that connection with the community. And then there's some sense of normality that goes with that. So Ms. Rachel, I sincerely appreciate your work in that and making sure people are still connected.
Thanks. My assistant Heidi has been doing an awesome job with our social media and
Yes.
having something every single day. So Saturday and Sunday included. So check us out. Thank you.
Yes.
I would be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity, as virtual as it is, to introduce Mitch Massman.
Right, good.
You'll see on your screen who is our new EDA director. And I know, Mitch, you can see everybody's name at the base of their photograph. And some of us you've met and some of you haven't. We're very excited to have Mitch. He's going to jump in with both feet. Rachel Gray is our librarian. Bob Vos is our city attorney. Brandon Sather is our fire chief. And I think you know the rest of them. Kelly is on council. Jason's on council. You've met Elizabeth, Stephanie. This is all, this is what makes the city run. So thanks, Mitch, for attending, and wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me aboard.
Right.
Welcome.
Welcome, Mitch.
So, any other department reports? EDA, fire department, sheriff, public works. There being
I
none-
got a quick
Go ahead.
update for the fire department. The new fire truck has all been painted. They're going to start assembling it here very shortly. Hopefully within 2 to 3 weeks, we'll be going out there to do a final inspection on it. The truck will then go to McQueen's and Burnsville to get the rest of the equipment put on it. So we're still looking at late May, early June to have it.
Okay. Thank you, Brandon.
Yep.
Any other department reports? If there being none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and second. We are done.